Prema Racing have announced their lineup for the 2025 FIA Formula 2 Championship. And I do quite literally rub my hands together because everyone always gets very excited, very intrigued to see who Prema Racing are going to announce. And this year, it was Italian Gabriele Minì and Sebastián Montoya. Gabriele Minì, who quite literally was one corner away from winning the Formula 3 Championship in 2024. And Sebastián Montoya, who was his teammate at Prema Racing in Italian F4 in 2020. So the partnership at Prema Racing, they were teammates at High Tech in Formula 3 as well, but this partnership that they had at Prema when they began their single-seater journey 5 years ago has reformed now in Formula 2 as well. Gabriele Minì came as no surprise, I think, for everyone, despite what was a pretty difficult year for Prema's rating. I think Prema, we're used to seeing them fight for the championship. That did not happen in Formula 2 last year. I think they all put last season as a write-off. They would not have been happy with that at all. But everyone not surprised to see Gabriele Minì take a place there and return to Prema. He will be going in to fight for the championship, having just missed out on Formula 3 last year. That came as a very exciting signing for a lot of people. The Italian going to the Italian team. Sebastián Montoya alongside him, though, that did come as a surprise for quite a few people. Sebastián Montoya had a difficult season, to say the least, in Formula 3 last year. I mean, we have to remember the two collided at Barcelona. I think it was at turn 5 when Sebastián Montoya was on a good run through the field. Had come from 27th, was trying to get some points, but that was just one of many difficulties Sebastián Montoya had throughout his season. In the end, found himself halfway down the championship standing. So came as a surprise for some people. Let's see if Sebastián Montoya can wipe the slate clean and now go after a good season in Formula 2 and work from there. Let's hear, I'm very intrigued for this, let's hear what Feeder Series F2 editor Martin Lloyd has to say on this reformed partnership between Gabriele Minì and Sebastián Montoya at Prema Racing.
Yeah, Chris, as you say, this is a partnership that has been made before, notably at High Tech in Formula 3 in 2023. And I think it's a really interesting partnership. If we start with Sebastián Montoya, who's, of course, come up from a couple of challenging seasons in Formula 3, I think it was maybe a little bit of a surprise that Prema were going for somebody who hadn't had a brilliant season in Formula 3, because that's what they so often do. They often cherry pick the best talent that has been in that lower category for a rookie driver. But it's not as if Sebastián Montoya has not impressed Prema before. It's not as if he's not showed talent before, because we've got to remember he finished 4th in Italian F4 with them in 2021. And I think despite his results, he's always had that kind of underlying pace. It's always been a little bit of a surprise that he's been so far down the pecking order in Formula 3, because he's always had those weekends where suddenly he's at the front of the field, or like you said in that introduction, Chris, where he starts 27th on the grid and somehow maneuvers his way up towards the points. So I think it's a really interesting one for Montoya, because I think he's not a driver that on the surface you'd look at and think he's going to be in the Prema next year. But I also don't think he's somebody that that doesn't deserve a chance, and maybe a new series will give him the impetus and give him the speed to move on and become quicker than we've seen him in Formula 3. But we've seen that talent is there before. He's also been a Red Bull athlete in the past. It's at the moment it's a little bit unclear if he's going to be continuing as that. But I think it's important to say that although this is maybe a bit of a surprise, this is not a driver who has never shown anything in his career. And I think his partner in Gabriele Minì could be a really interesting one for Sebastián Montoya to have. Minì, of course, one of the standout drivers in Formula 3 last season and the season before as well in 2023. He did have maybe not what he was expecting, but he still showed speed on a number of occasions. Minì, of course, who competed in Formula 2 at Baku as Ollie Behrman's substitute, We finished on the sprint race podium. He did crash out of the feature race, but he showed enough in that race to show us that he's going to adjust pretty well to Formula 2. He'll be the team leader despite being the rookie because of how good he's been in Formula 3. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Montoya can learn from him. I think they could be a good partnership, and Prema obviously believe in them because they have worked together before, and I think this could be a really interesting dynamic. The pressure will be on Minnie a little bit, both as a member of the Alpine Academy looking for an F1 seat when being a member of the Alpine Academy hasn't always helped you to get an Alpine seat. So I think that's going to be interesting for him, even if he does have a good season. But more importantly, in the Formula 2 context, he's the man tasked with rebuilding Prema's reputation and rating, as you say, Chris, as the primary destination for driver academy talent in Formula 2. I think last season, Mercedes and Ferrari trusted Prema with Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli, and both drivers had moments of speed. I think Antonelli's sprint race win in the wet at Silverstone springs to mind for me. But the team did not have the championship contending performance that we're so used to it seeing. And I think it's really important for Prema that Minnie and Montoya can both perform, can both show that Prema still has that level. It's not like Prema's not had a difficult season before. 2019 was a challenging one for them. So I've got confidence that they'll bounce back. I think it's a really interesting partnership for them to go forward with for 2025.
Great points raised by Martin there. I think Sebastián Montoya, definitely a driver people like to hate or like to put down, definitely like to pick out the bad things of. But as Martin said, he's definitely shown the pace over the years. This will be an interesting partnership with Gabriele Minì, who he's raced alongside before. Let's see how it goes. Gabriele Minì back with a team who he's been successful with in the past in Italian F4, a champion with. I'm very, very excited to see how this one goes. That's what myself and Martin think. Tell us what you think in the comments below.